Well, there are also Muslim men who are standing up for change. And recently we saw the situation with Qasim Ahmad. And Marina, you were both of you were very upset when he was arrested and charged. What does it tell of government or attitudes about this sort of things? Are they still not open to listening to another point of view, Marina?
Well, yeah, no, in short, no. I mean, the space has really, really narrowed drastically in the past few years particularly. Like, we're all being squeezed into a particular box. And if we don't conform, then we're all in trouble. That's why, sisters, we've had so many people trying to ban us, so many people trying to say that we can't use the word Islam in our name, people trying to ban our book, and all sorts of things. We've been subjected to so much harassment. When we spoke out in support of Kartika a few years ago, we had 50 police reports filed against us. I mean, this is the sort of harassment just because we're saying something different, and those in authority feel that this is threatening because they have to control the message in order to stay in power. They cannot have other people challenging them and saying, no, there are different interpretations. And it's the same is true with the case of Pak Qasim. I think we were most upset. I mean, this man has suffered persecution for many, many, many years. Yeah, from the time he wrote his book, 1986, there's been all sorts of attempts to silence him, and now he's 81, very frail and old, and the whole manner of this recent arrest and all that is just completely uncalled for. He's not a criminal. He's not about to run away. He's not done anyone any harm. But the thing is that his thinking, his message is, just does not conform to the mainstream message, just like ours as Sisters in Islam. So this is why we have to constantly fight for the space to have different views put out there, because otherwise, we're already seeing a lot of, dumbing down of people. People are just refusing to think. In fact, some of these authorities are telling people that you must not think, you must simply accept. What does that make us? As human beings, we're being turned into robots so that we are more easily controlled. And that's dangerous, yeah.
What has been the personal cost for both of you, Zai? I mean, being single, do they make that something that they will use against you? What's the personal cost to your own life, doing this work?
I have a very thick skin, and that really helps, actually. I don't know, maybe I have to behave myself better in public, Thank God, I don't do many of the sins that are considered sins in Islam, so that's quite helpful. I hate alcohol. No, I can't think of a personal, like a big personal cost, really. Because, for me, it's because I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm doing what I believe in. So what people would think to be costs are not costs to me, actually. Because it's my passion, it's what I believe in. And I guess, and I'm ready to face the consequences of my action, of my belief. So I don't really worry too much about it.
So you're not fearful of anything?
I'm fearful of God.
A knock at 4 a.m. or something like that?
But I'm not scared of men. I'm not scared of human beings.
I think we are fairly lucky in that we live in a country, in a culture that is relatively peaceful, I think we're lucky we're not living in Afghanistan or where Pakistan, or where they try and assassinate you if they don't like you. So in this country, I think, inshallah, we stay this way. We're relatively peaceful, and it's, it's sticks and stones, that sort of words. It's mostly words, yeah. But still, you know, words can be hurtful, and you know, nowadays, you know, words can lead to incitement, and we do have a right to worry about it. I mean, we've had Friday sermons that have pretty much said, go out and do something about sister in Islam. Now, what if some crazy person interpreted that in some way that would physically harm us? You know, we've had to take measures to improve our security at our office because of this, because we can't be slack, you know, on these issues. We don't know if there's some mad person somewhere who decides to do that. So we have to be cautious. So in that way, there is a kind of a personal cost. But for me, I find I get hentam by both sides of the divide, so I figure I must be doing something right.
You know, I just want to add, I think it's really important, you know, how Malaysians feel so strongly about violence or against violence. Because I have a journalist friend from Pakistan. He asked me, really puzzled, he said, Zainah, how come you Muslims in Malaysia are not killing each other? He was puzzled by that, because in Pakistan, the Muslims are killing each other. The Sunnis are killing the Shias are killing the Muslims, the Ahmadiyyas are being killed. And why don't you have this tradition of violence in Malaysia? And I think that is something that we really should think about and should be proud of. And I think the extremist groups in Malaysia, I mean, if they are thinking about winning power, they must know that if they are going to choose the cause of violence, that's it. No Malaysian is going to accept that. And I think it's really important that Malaysians make their voices heard, you know, should that begin. You know, we are worried, of course, you know, about the dissent because of all these radical voices. But I think that culture of non-violence in Malaysia is extremely fundamental to believe, to hold on to.
I think a great example, and I always use it to cite how, you know, proud I am of Malaysia, is that when the church got burnt a few years ago, people didn't immediately start, you know, rioting or whatever. They just went about their business in their normal way, because they were not going to let this, you know, incident, you know, change the way, you know. And we have a real aversion to violence, and I think that's good, and I hope that holds. But the thing is, with constant provocation, who knows, you know?
But, you know, we were advised just to ignore extremists. Is that good enough?
No. Especially if we don't name the extremists. You see, one of the problems nowadays is that everything has been turned upside down. Definitions are not clear. Definitions have been turned upside down. To some people, we are the extremists, right? Being liberal now is bad. You know, when before it was never associated with bad things. Being liberal is bad. People trying to do good things are bad. People trying to make peace are bad. You know, everything is turned upside down. And so, you know, if you say something like, ignore the extremists, well and good, but, you know, define them. Just define them, you know, because then you know, people interpret it in different ways. Our problem is always about interpretation.
But we do have entities like Suhakam. Zai, you were one of our original commissioners, Suhakam, and now, Marina, you are a member of the National Unity Consultative Council. What was the experience like for you, Zai? You know, what work did Suhakam do? I mean, Suhakam was set up by Act of Parliament, something the government started, but now it seemed to have moved to that almost like an NGO kind of a position.
You know, I mean, I was there the first 4 years, and I chose not to be reappointed because I really felt that for me to make the kind of difference that I wanted to make in Suhakam, I would have to spend a lot more time working on it, and I just didn't have that time. I felt, you know, I was hitting my head against the wall with sisters. I can't take on another task where I'm going to hit my head against the wall. I think Suhakam did is doing good in terms of opening up. Certainly when we had Tuan Musa Hitam as the chair of SUHAKAM, we had access. So for me, that was the most important thing. We were traveling all over the country, talking about human rights, talking about the role of SUHAKAM to people we usually don't have access to government servants, the establishment figures. So that was really important. And really people were puzzled, because a lot of UMNO members would come to the hearings. People were puzzled, why did the government set up a Human Rights Commission to be critical of the government? People actually did not understand, the idea of human rights and a Human Rights Commission. So I think in terms of opening up the space and talking, to various people, government servants, dealing with policymakers and all that, that was good. But my frustration is really getting the SUHAKAM reports. And SUHAKAM really writes excellent reports, very well researched, very inclusive in terms of speaking with stakeholders. But then what happens? What happens to the recommendations? And that's where my frustration is, that the government set us up. We do all this research, we do all this work, we come up with recommendations, and then our recommendations are not even debated in Parliament and are not adopted. So that's the frustration that I have.
Well, that's why there's cynicism when they set up NUCC. And Marina, you were appointed. I think they just put your name in without asking you or something. So why did you take up that appointment, and what do you hope to achieve with NUCC?
Well, I think they gave all of us very short notice, about being appointed. And I was rather surprised to be named to it. But I went along to the launch, and I felt a bit better when I saw the other names, Datuk Saifuddin, Dr. Mujahid, and all that. So I kind of felt, okay, if they agreed to be on, then maybe this can be something. And I realize there's a lot of cynicism out there because of the past experience, whether it's SUHAKAM reports or Royal Commission reports and that sort of thing. Nothing ever happens. And we really don't know, again, quite frankly, what's going to happen with the so-called blueprint or unity that we're doing. But I think the composition of the council is pretty good. And the reason I know it's very good is because Perkasa thinks it's bad. They have complained about the composition, that in fact that there are not enough Malays on it, and all the wrong Malays are on it, particularly me. They've actually named me as being one of those people that is wrong for it and should be kicked off. So again, I think I must be doing something right. But I think we're all very, very invested in it. We've gone to all the dialogues. Tomorrow is the final one, the 18th one. And we've really tried to make it as open as possible. It's not the end. We are also going to have roundtables with particular groups of people, and we're having all sorts of other meetings. So we are all investing a lot. And I think from very early on, from the first meeting, several members voiced out that if this work that we're doing, if this blueprint is going to go the same route as past reports, then we're all going to walk out right now, and so we were assured that it wouldn't be. It still remains to be seen, of course, but I think people like Datuk Saifuddin, Mujahid, myself, and some of these others, if it did not work out, none of us will keep quiet. I mean, I think we will create a ruckus. As it is, we are tweeting it out, we're really keeping it very open, so we hope so.